Before Arnold and before the golden era that, for most of you, defined bodybuilding, there was another age, the silver era, a time when training was simple, raw, and brutally honest. No fancy gym, no steroids, no machine, just barbell, dumbbell, and sometimes, if you were lucky, a cable station. All you had was obsession with perfection. Men like Steve Reeves, Reg Park, John Grimek, they didn't chase freak size, they chased balance, strength, proportion, the kind of physique that looked powerful and was powerful. In this video, we are going to go back in time to look at 5 exercises from the silver era that still deserve a place in your training today. Exercises that build timeless body and that still can, whatever the science say or don't. Let's go. First thing first, what do we define as silver era? Basically, it is the time in between the bronze era, which was dominated by strongmen that could perform into circus and activities that looked amazing, and the golden era that was strictly about bodybuilding on stage as we know about it. So roughly from the 20s and to the late 50s. It was the age when strength training became an art form. Each movement had a purpose. There was no shortcut, and if you wanted progress, you had to earn it. You were not going to do exhibition as a primary source of sport. You are going to use exercise to build your body, to showcase it in the best light you possibly could. The first exercise I want to talk about is the Incline dumbbell curl that was invented by Steve Reeves or potentially Eddie Arick. By sitting back on a 45-degree angle bench and letting your arms hang fully extended, you place your biceps under a very strong stretch, something almost no other curl can replicate. Biomechanically speaking, it targets the long head of the biceps better and will maximize the tension through the entire range of motion. More modern research confirms what Reeves intuitively understood. Loaded stretch and tension is one of the most powerful triggers for hypertrophy. Now, if I can recommend a few stuff for you guys if you want to do it, first, keep the shoulder pinned. They should not move. You either retract them or you let them hang. But throughout the motion, they are not supposed to move. Second, do not let your elbow go either further back or further forward. You either do a little curl motion with the shoulder flexion as well, or you keep them totally stationary, which is what Reeves recommended and preferred. And actually, Arnold did them in a specific way, and he did not really understood how they were so powerful to build big arms up until he trained with Reeves and saw him and how he was doing them, and that's when he changed his form and benefited greatly from it. So keep the elbow as stable as possible. And lastly, maybe it's quite obvious for most of you, but I'm still going to say it, do not swing. And if you want to check out all school exercises that are included already into programs already made, you can check out my ebook down below into the link in the description. Now, let's go to the second one. Before machine existed, shoulders were built with raw pressing power. Reg Park, Steve Reeves, Marvin Heder, all of them loved and used the behind the neck press as their go-to for complete shoulder development. Done with control and mobility, it recruits the lateral and posterior delt far more than the front press, giving that 3D roundness that defined the silver era silhouette with big and wide shoulder. If you do this exercise, make sure that you're fully warmed up and that you have the mobility, because it's going to ask much more of you to be able to perform it properly. But technically speaking, it is superior to a front press. You need less wrist mobility. You are able to keep your shoulder and your elbow better aligned without tilting at the torso or at the hip. So whatever, if you're doing seated or standing, you're technically much better aligned with the resistance of a barbell. And lastly, it just looks badass. As a third exercise, and it could deserve an entire video on it, I give you the pullover. This is, in my opinion, one of the most misunderstood exercises. Back then, it was a movement that connected the whole body. The upper body, that was a bridge between chest and back, strength and athleticism, and then the hips. It stretches the lats and the serratus. You're able to also recruit the chest, and it will pull onto the ribs and thus have an effect of expansion throughout the rib cage. Silver era athletes believed it literally was able to shape the torso, and in a way, they weren't really wrong. Arnold later called it a missing link, and when you see the proportion of those early legends, you understand why. One of the most classic things athletes back then were doing was to do squats and supersetting it with dumbbell pullover lying across a bench. They thought that both the stimulus and the stretch on the ribcage from the squat and then this more passive but deeper stretch from the pullover was able to really extend the ribcage and also was basically doing a full body superset, the squat for your legs and the pullover for your almost your whole upper body. So that's how good this exercise was considered and still is when you look at plenty of the physiques that are still doing pullovers. Now, before the incline bench and all the machine chest press that we had, there was one exercise that all the silver era legends, especially Colbert, loved to build the chest, and that was the guillotine press. The guillotine press was the secret for a thoroughly developed chest and especially a very thick upper chest. Bar to the neck, elbow flared, hand collar to collar, every centimeter burned. This variant is really good at biasing the clavicular fibers of the chest while minimizing a lot the triceps involvement, a concept decades ahead of its time. Think about Leroy Colbert, Steve Reeves, and even an early Vince Gironda that used it religiously to carve that high, full chest you just do not see much anymore. Now, you need to make sure to totally control the bar at all time. What I would actually prefer you to do is to start out in the Smith machine, actually. And if, for any reason, you feel better with a slight or even a normal incline, do it that way. Because it's about your shoulder mobility, it's about your sternum angle and your humerus angle. So if for whatever reason you prefer incline guillotine press, like me, do it on an incline. And if for any reason you just prefer it flat, do it flat. Lastly, we're going to give at least one exercise for the legs, and this is going to be the Sissy squat. Long before the golden era, the Sissy squat was already used by the silver era legends. There was no hack squat, there was no Smith machine, you just had to get tension and control as good as you would. This is what Monty Wolford, for example, loved about it. Biomechanically speaking, it isolates the rectus femoris better than almost any modern movement. And it's not about loading heavy, it's about creating unbearable tension through the knee flexion and body control. If you think you're training your legs hard, just try it, and you'll see for yourself. As you see from this video, the silver era was not about something extremely complex. It was about mastering the basics and using your head, your brain, to make every movement count and just be better, because everything had a purpose back then. Minimal equipment, maximum intention. These movements build a kind of physique that stood the test of time, balanced, functional, and beautiful. It's not for nothing that even nowadays they are still considered the best and legends that we should all emulate and try to achieve similar results than them. You do not need a gym full of machines to build greatness. All you need is commitment, consistency, and focus. If you want to apply this philosophy, I have created silver and golden era both program into my ebooks. So as I said again, you can check it out into the link in the bio. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you like this type of content, and I'll see you very soon for another video. Take care and bye-bye.